Yeah, hi Prasanna.
Hi, Gautam.
Hi. See, uh, in yesterday's class, we have seen how you can generate the plugin file and how you can propagate. So whatever we learned in yesterday's session, that is manual job. That is manually you are generating the plugin and manually you are copying cfg.xml file which is generated under dmgr config sales directory. You're copying that file and you are pasting that file into the plugins folder or plugin path where your web server definition has been created. Correct? That we have copied and pasted. This is the manual job. We will see how you can generate and propagate plugin by using admin console. And this concept I'm going to cover on top of 8.5. Okay, so when we move on to the Linux boxes, we will see how we can configure this web server and plugin using your DMGR console and how you can start and stop your Apache, your web server or IBM HTTP server by using console and how you can generate and propagate the plugin file using console. These two concepts I will cover when we have installed 8.5. Okay, so now today, before going into the class, let me start my DMGR console. See, today I'm going to cover, sorry, instead of searching notepad, I'm searching for agenda. Usually this will happen. Okay. So today we are going to discuss how weight weight based algorithm. So we will learn today how the weight based algorithm will work in clustering. Okay. Before moving into that, I'm going to the clusters. I'm going to the cluster, go inside the clusters. Okay. And you can expand the cluster members. You can see the weights here. See, you can see all cluster members weight has been defined as 222. So while creating your the cluster and while creating your cluster member, it will ask you to it will ask you to provide the weight. So what I have done, what I have done, I have not changed any values. By default, it was showing and it was taking as 2. I'm not going, I didn't change anything over there. So I have allowed to keep the default values while creating the cluster member. See, you can see now all your cluster members weight is defined as 2. If you change these values, what will happen and how this algorithm will work, I'll explain. If for example, you have you have 3 cluster members, right? Here, what is the cluster member? Okay, for example, you have 3 cluster members. What is your cluster name? cluster underscore dev, right? See, you have the clustered environment, and the cluster name is cluster underscore dev. In this cluster, you have members as per this example. Okay, as per this example, I have the cluster called cluster underscore dev. In this cluster underscore dev, I have three cluster members. I have drawn it here, and now the weight for all the cluster members has been configured as 2. Okay, for all this has been configured as 2. See, now I'm trying to explain. user User given request. Okay, so this is on where it is. This is our application server, right? For example, so you have plugin. I don't have the space here. I'll give very small diagrams. You have plugin and you have IHS, and this is the end user. This is the end user. End user is nothing but who is accessing the application from the browser. This is your IHS and this is your plugin. Okay, so client has given one request. For example, that request has been landed on your IHS, and IHS has processed that request to the plugin. Okay, after plugin, what it will happen? The first request will hit randomly. The first request will hit randomly to the cluster, to the any cluster member. It can hit randomly to the cluster member. So for example, the first request has been hitted your dev3. The first request hits your dev3. First request will randomly hit to any JVM. It can hit to any of the JVM. It can hit to any of the JVM. If you have three cluster members, it can hit any cluster member. First request, it will hit randomly. Okay, for example, that first request hits you randomly to your cluster underscore dev underscore 3 JVM. What will happen? This request will be served by this JVM. At the time, what will happen? The weight here is showing as 2. What will happen? This thread will consume one weight. This request will consume one thread. Now, out of 2, one thread has been consumed. What will be the next? What will be the next? The thread is nothing but, I am not exactly saying the counts. Okay, count. I'm not saying the thread value means if you have 0 thread, that means this JVM will not work. Please don't think in that way. Okay, if your count, if your weight is coming as 0, also no need to worry. What will happen? It will be counts based upon the threads, for based upon the threads, how many threads you are serving. Okay, so you will get more detail. No worry. See now, one request has been hit at this, and current weight is showing as 2. What will happen? One request has been assigned, right? Already this 2 becomes 1 now. So one request has been served by this JVM. So it will reach us to 1. Okay, and this algorithm which I'm going to expand is weight based algorithm. So based upon the weight, the algorithm will works. Okay, now what will happen? The second request, as this algorithm will work based on the weight, and at the same times it will work as round. It will work round based also. So now this weight is 1. Current weight is 1. So if another request has been sent to IHS will process that to plugin. The plugin will, what it will do, it will be assigning the next request to this cluster member. See, it will round basis. It will check on the round basis and it will go to the cluster dev 2 and it will see the weight of this JVM, and the JVM weight is 2, and the other JVM weight is also 2. So it will, this request will be assigned to this JVM on round basis. Now the second request has been assigned to this JVM and this wait becomes 1 now. Correct? And if you send the third request, okay, to the IHS, and plugin will send this request to this JVM. Why? Because this weight is 2 and the other two JVMs weight is currently 1. So this is the highest one, and as per the round ways, the first one is cluster underscore dev 1. So that weight is 2, remaining weight is 1. That request will be assigned to this JVM. Now this weight becomes 1. Okay, again the same process. Now all three weights becomes 1. What will happen? The next request, the fourth request will come to this one, and the fifth request will come to this one, and sixth request will come to this one. This way your algorithm will work. If you make if you make any of the value to 1, currently you have 2 2 2, right? Instead of this, if you make to 2, if you make this 2 to 1, if you make this 2 to 1, okay, in this scenario the first request will reach to any of the cluster member. It can hit anyone. Either it can hit cluster member 2, for example it hits 2. The second request will hit to this, and third request will hit to this, and third request will hit to this, okay, and fourth will hit to this, and fourth will be hit this, fifth will be this, fifth will be your this one, and sixth also will be this one, seventh also will be this one, and eighth will come to this. Two requests will be served by your cluster member dev, cluster dev 1, cluster dev 2, and one request will go to dev 3. Why? Because this load is 1. This and this two JVMs load is double. So two requests will go to here, two requests will go to here, and one request will go to here. This way the wait concepts will work. Now what we will do, whatever we discussed theoretically, I'll show you practically by accessing the Snoop application and also by changing the values of your weight. Okay. Any questions you can ask me. Otherwise, we will see the practical session and then you can start asking the questions.
Gautam, you told me that algorithms, right? It
Mhm.
is similar to load balancer.
Exactly, exactly. See, everywhere the algorithms will be the same, but here it will be predefined algorithm called weight based algorithm. You can't change your algorithm based upon your requirement. Okay, IBM has developed or IBM has designed to use clustered as a weight based algorithm. But when it comes to the load balancer concept, there you have multiple algorithms based upon your requirement. You can use the algorithms. You have weight
Yes.
based, you have
Round
round
robin.
algorithm, random algorithm. In that you have sticky sessions. In that you can enable persistence. Whatever you want, you can do it at LB. So that is the use of the LB. But here it's a predefined. You can't define it as your own. That is a small difference. Who Prasanna is asking this question?
Yes.
Okay, Prasanna, great. Okay, your doubt cleared, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But there they will take separate separate option for load balancer. Here inbit will be there, right?
Yes. See, load balancer also here, what will happen in the real time? Okay, end user, it will directly hit to IHS, right?
Hmm.
In between IHS, they will configure LB.
Yes.
Okay, load balancer they will configure. See why? Why? Because so what will happen? See, with this example, I'm showing only one IHS, but in the real time environment, they will maintain maybe two IHS, three IHS. At time, at the time, you should have LB. Why? Because this load, this load the end user is giving the request, right? That load will be balanced across your LB, right? Like this it will be. LB, if you get 5 requests from your 5 end users, okay, it will balance the load between your IHS, and at the same time your plugin also will be like this. It will be like this, and these guys will send the request to anyone. Okay, the plugin, this plugin file can send the request to any of the cluster members.
Then what is the difference between load balancer and IHS? Because uh, uh,
See,
the
see
working
the
environment is same, right?
IHS,
Mhm.
see, the IHS is not for the purpose of balancing the load. It is something else. As I mentioned, you can host your static content in this web server. Static content means, for example, I have brought down this environment. I have brought down this environment due to some maintenance activity. At the time, I will enable, I will enable maintenance windows here, maintenance page here. So whoever coming to my application, they will get this page from this IHS. And this IHS will act as a middleware layer, or it can be act as a web layer. It will act as a web layer. Okay, if you have more detailed analysis, this will see, if you know the concept called vulnerability management. Do you know the concept called headers, response headers, input headers, get method, post method? All these vulnerables can be easily handled at web layer. So there are more advantages on this. Even my current application which I'm handling, I don't have the web layer. I'm using WebLogic, but I don't have the web server. So even I'm struggling to close the vulnerabilities. To be frankly speaking, I'm struggling. The same vulnerabilities which has been reported or which I'm working now. So I have closed that vulnerabilities 2 years before in my other application which I'm working, which is have the web layer, which is have the IHS. Now everything I need to look look for the code level changes. To set a single header, I need to go with the code level changes. But if I have the web layer, I can change easily. It's very difficult in the real time. Okay, that's why I haven't explained much, because if I try to say the vulnerability concepts, okay, it's purely related to the cyber security. I don't want to go in that mode. Why? Because people were learning this tool very newly. If I go in detail more on that, people will really not understood the concepts. This vulnerability management, this and all comes under cyber security or application security, you can say, or you can say vulnerability security management. All this will be part of that. But you with this web layer or your web server will be used for different things. So that's why we are using, or IBM will always suggest to go with this type of implementation. But it's up to them. Okay, and you can see that clustered environment. In that clustered environment, if you want, you can achieve your cluster environment behavior or workload management from this IHS only, na? So if you have only application servers, you can't you can't achieve more. You can be achieving even there also, you can achieve by keeping the load balancer between your JVMs. But if you have IHS, now IHS will handle more requests, or you can directly give you a static contents with the help of this IHS. So that's why we are using it. Okay. So any questions to anyone? Basana, you got the details, right? Your question has been answered, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So what I'll do now? So I'll try to bring up this JVMs first. Tomorrow I'll try to explain the logs concepts. So that is very, very important. What are the logs we are having in the WebSphere and the application, WebSphere application server and the web server and the plugins that we'll see in tomorrow's class. Okay, all the logs, what are the logs available and what it contains and how it is used in our day-to-day support life when you are in shift. That and all I'll try to explain in tomorrow's class. Okay, and I'll give some after that we'll slowly we'll try to cover if any pending topics in the Windows. If not, then we'll move on to the Linux boxes and we'll see the basic commands. I'll try to show the basic commands. So what is required and how you can install the Linux OS in your laptop. That and all I'll show you, and I'll give some links where you can download your VMware and where you can download your OS, and we will see that. Then we'll see how to install WebSphere 8.5 on Linux and all. We'll see some more topics we have that we'll see. See, I have started my all cluster members. So what I'll do now, I'm going to change the weight. To change the weight, I'm going to the clusters. Under clusters, there we have an option called WebSphere application server clusters. Go inside that. Okay, expand these cluster members. Okay, you have an option called details. Go inside that. When you click on details, okay, you can see the values here. So what I am doing now, I'm changing, I'm changing the weight for dev 1. Okay, and I'm changing the weight for dev 3. So as per this, what will happen? Two requests should go to dev 2 and one request will go to dev 1 and dev 3. So here the weight is 2. That means two requests will go to here and one request will go to these two JVMs. You'll see that. So click on update, review, expand this, save. So once you have saved these configurations, okay. So what you need to do, you need to generate your plugin and you need to propagate your plugin. Why? Because this changes which you have performed now, that doesn't knows to your plugin. So now to get these changes effective and to get these changes notified to your plugin, you need to generate the plugin file and you need to propagate the plugin file. To generate this plugin file, you need to go to your DMGR bin folder. Go to your DMGR bin folder. Okay. So here you just execute gen plugin cfg.bat file. So generate plugin config.bat file. So you can execute that. Now it will generate the plugin file with current configurations. Okay. See, now it has been generated. So go inside, go to that path where it will be under config sales. You can see this file with today's date 13/12/2023 around 6:46 p.m. You have this file. Copy this file. Copy this file. Go back to your plugin web server definition path, which is available under plugins config web server 1. Here you have the old file. Now paste it. Replace this file in this destination. So now you can see here. Okay. Now you try to access the Snoop application. http/localhost/snoop. See, What will happen? What is happening? Why it is not coming? Anyone having clues? Any clues? Yeah, we haven't started something. So any clues? So I'll give one more clue.
The file is existing already.
No, I'm giving one more clue here. I'm trying to access something. If something is running, I should get this here. I should get some page here. See the URL which I'm using. My web server is not started. If I execute localhost, it should come my web server page. So that my IHS is not started. No, IH is not started. So I'm going into my HTTP server bin. There I'm executing http.exe file.
Hello,
Yes.
గౌతమ్ భయ్య.
Yes, Sharat.
అదే ప్లగిన్స్ కూడా అప్డేట్ చేయాలి కదా?
We have, see, that's what plugin -cfc.xml file we have generated and we have propagated, right? So that means we have generated by using gen plugin con gen this command, right? What is that? Gen plugin cfc.bat command. We have generated this plugin file, and this file I have copied and I have pasted to the plugin directory that I already done. So that is nothing but updated. Okay, now what I haven't done, I haven't started my IHS or my HTTP server, so that's why I'm not able to access that application. So now you can try to access the local host. Now see, now I got the console page of my HTTP server. Now you can try to access your application. Sorry, it was in HTTPS, so we should use HTTP. See, I got the application. Come down and see which server has responded your request. See, your clust underscore dev underscore 2 served your request, and what is the weight of that? What is the weight of that JVMs? See, the 2 JVM, the dev2 JVM has weight maintained as 2. So the first request has been sent to dev2. Refresh it again. See the first request I said it will hit randomly, correct? So the first request has been landed. The first request has been landed. Wait. As of now, you can see the first request landed randomly here, and this weight is currently 1. This weight is 1. Okay, this weight at this point of time, this weight is 2. The first request has been landed here. That weight has become 1 now. So now all three weights, 3 JVM weights become 111. What happened? The next when I given the refresh, the second request landed here. So now that this became 0 now. Okay, next we'll see. Next refresh it. Now it went to dev 1. Now it went to dev 1.
అంటే డిక్రీజ్ అవుతుందా గౌతమ్ బ్రో?
Ah,
1
it
నుంచి
will be
0
numerical. It will be decrease. See again what will happen. It will be passed. That's it. It will be passed through. Whatever the requests are coming, it will be doing number calculations. That's it. It won't do anything more on that. It will do the number calculations. So to whom it has to send, so that calculation will do based upon these numbers. That's it. I'm giving general example. Okay. See the third request went to dev 1. Okay. Now refresh it. See now it went to dev 2. Again refresh it. Dev 3. Dev 1. Dev 2. Dev 3. One
స్పెల్లింగ్స్
second.
కరెక్ట్ వేయండి గౌతమ్.
ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಲೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್.
ಹೌದಾ? ಇದು ಸಂಡೆ ಫ್ರೀ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಹುಡುಗಿ
Please
ಕಡೆಯವರು
go on
ನೋಡೋಣ
mute.
ಅಂತ
ಯಾವ್ರಿ
ಇದೆ. ಆ ಒಂದು
cluster dev 2. 1 second. Let me show. One, two. Okay. See here. See, if you can refresh. So now it is went to dev 1, right? Again refresh it. Now it went to dev 2. Again refresh it. Again it went to dev 2. Okay. Again refresh it. It went to dev 3. So that means what you are observing here, one request is going to dev 1 and two requests is going to dev 2, another one request is going to dev 3. If you can, again you can see now it is on dev 3. Refresh it. It went to dev 1. Again refresh it. It went to dev 2. Again refresh it. Again it went to dev 2. Again refresh it. It went to dev 3. That means one request as per the weights, one request is going to dev 1, two request is going to dev 2, and three and one request is going to dev 3. You can see now based upon the weight only it is working, right? As per the weights it is working, right? So two request is going ratio. Like if you keep 4, what will happen? If you keep here 4, if you keep here 3, if you keep here 1, okay, what will happen? 3 requests will go to this, and 4 requests will go to this, and one request will go to this. This is a number calculation. That's it. Based upon the weights, it will logic will work. The background. Okay. If you keep this weight as 0, if you keep this weight as 0, what will happen? None of the requests will went to this JVM. Even though it is running, none of the requests will went to this JVM if you keep 0. This is an interview question. They will ask you some tricky questions. I want to I want to send 0 request to one of the cluster members, even though it is in running state. How I can achieve that? They will ask the question like this. You have to say, I can make the weight of that particular JVM or that particular cluster members to 0, so that even your JVM or cluster members is in running state also, no request will went to that. If you make the weight as 0, okay, in most of the interviews they will ask such tricky questions.
మీ వాయిస్ ఒక్కోసారి క్లియర్గా ఉండట్లేదు గౌతమ్. నెట్ ప్రాబ్లం.
రావట్లేదా ప్రాపర్ గా? ఓకే
వాయిస్ బ్రేకప్ అవుతుంది.
ఓకే 1 second. ఇప్పుడు వస్తుందా?
ఓకే అన్న, అంటే మీరు మాట్లాడుతూ ఉన్నప్పుడు వాయిస్ బ్రేక్ అవుతుంది.
ఓకే ఓకే అర్థమవుతుంది. నెట్వర్క్ ప్రాబ్లం ఉన్నట్టుంది. క్లౌడీగా ఉంది ఇక్కడ, సో స్లోనెస్ ఉన్నట్టుంది. ఓకే, సో ఏం చెప్తున్నా అంటే సింపుల్. ఓకే, సో based upon your weights the request will be sent, and if you make any cluster member weight as 0, that means no request will be routed to that cluster member, even though your cluster member is in running state. So that's what I'm trying to say. సో మీరు 0 చేస్తారంటే ఆ క్లస్టర్ మెంబర్స్ కి ఏ రిక్వెస్ట్ అనేది ప్లగిన్ రౌట్ చేయదు. ఈవెన్ ఆ జేవిఎం రన్నింగ్ లో ఉన్నా కూడా, సో ఇట్ వోంట్ రౌట్ ఎనీ రిక్వెస్ట్. సో ఇంటర్వ్యూ క్వశ్చన్స్ దే విల్ ఆస్క్ సచ్ థింగ్స్. హౌ ఐ కెన్ అచీవ్ not to send any request to the particular cluster member? At the time you have to say this answer. So that's why I'm explaining this concept. Okay, so any questions on these concepts, let me know, so that we can wind the class for today, and we'll see tomorrow about the logs as I explained. So you got yesterday's video, right? You got the yesterday's recording video, right? నిన్నటి రికార్డింగ్ వచ్చిందా?
అన్న ఒక్కసారి క్లస్టర్ వెయిట్ డయాగ్రామ్ వేసి చెప్పారు కదా, అది
క్లస్టర్ వెయిట్
క్లస్టర్ వెయిట్ 2 అని 1 అని 3 అని
నీకు వాయిస్ చాలా లోగా ఉంది శరత్.
ఒక్కసారి ఆ డయాగ్రామ్ గురించి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయండి అన్న.
ఇదా?
ఆ, ఆ వాల్యూస్ ఎలా మీరు ఎలా అనలైజ్ చేసి అలా చెప్పగలుగుతున్నారు మాకు ఒక్కసారి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయండి.
ఇక్కడ ఏది మనం చూడలేం. మనం ఎలా జరుగుతుందంటే అది లాజిక్ అలా రాశారు ఐబిఎం వాళ్ళు బ్యాక్ ఎండ్ లో.
ఓకే.
ఆ లాజిక్ ఎలా రాశారు అనేది నేను ఊరికే నార్మల్ గా ఒక వాల్యూస్ ప్రకారం చెప్తున్నా. సో బట్ వాట్ విల్ హ్యాపెన్, ఇక్కడ మనకు రియల్ టైమ్ లో తెలుస్తుంది కదా. సో ఇఫ్ ఐ మెయింటైన్ ద డిఫరెంట్ వెయిట్స్, సి ఫర్ డెవ్ 1 కి నేను 1 వెయిట్ పెట్టాను, డెవ్ 2 2 పెట్టాను, డెవ్ 3 కి 1 పెట్టాను అగైన్. సో ఇఫ్ మీరు సేమ్ అప్లికేషన్ ఈ మూడిట్లో డిప్లాయ్ చేస్తారు కదా. సో సేమ్ అప్లికేషన్ ఈ మూడిట్లో డిప్లాయ్ అయింది. సో నేను అప్లికేషన్ని ఐహెచ్ఎస్ నుంచి యాక్సెస్ చేస్తుంటే ఏమవుతుందంటే ఒక రిక్వెస్ట్ ఫస్ట్ రిక్వెస్ట్ దీనికి వెళ్తుంది అనుకోండి, నెక్స్ట్ 2 రిక్వెస్ట్ ఈ సర్వర్కి వెళ్తుంది. ఎందుకంటే ఈ సర్వర్ యొక్క వెయిట్ 2 ఉంది కదా.
అంటే అది మనకు ముందుగా ఎలా తెలుస్తుంది ఆ వెయిట్ 2 అని?
ఈ వెయిట్ 2 మనం పెట్టుకున్నాం కదా.
ఓకే.
నువ్వు లాగిన్ చేసి కన్సోల్లో చూస్తే నీకు ఐడియా వస్తుంది. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఎక్కడ చూస్తున్నాను, ఇక్కడ నాకు వెయిట్ ఇక్కడ ఎక్కడ కనబడుతుంది. ఈ వెయిట్ ని నువ్వు క్లస్టర్కి వెళ్ళావంటే, క్లస్టర్ అండర్ స్కోర్ డెవ్కి వెళ్ళావంటే, సో క్లస్టర్ మెంబర్స్ దగ్గర ఎక్స్పాండ్ చేసావంటే యూ కెన్ సీ ద వెయిట్స్ హియర్. See, normal in the real time environment, you won't touch anything. Okay, you won't touch anything related to the weights. It will be 2 2 2 2. If you have 10 JVMs, 10 cluster members also, the weights you won't touch it. This concept is only for the interview purpose. Most of the interviews they will ask some tricky questions, asking that if I don't if I don't want to send any request to particular cluster members, how you are going to do అన్న ఒక క్వశ్చన్ కి ఇవాళ క్లాస్ చెప్తున్నా. ఎందుకంటే మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద ఇంటర్వ్యూస్ అలాగ అడుగుతారు. సో ఈ వెయిట్ అనేది మేము 0 చేసామంటే ఏ రిక్వెస్ట్ అనేది దానికి వెళ్ళదు, ఆ జేవిఎం ఆ క్లస్టర్ మెంబర్స్కి వెళ్ళదు. సో దాంతోపాటు ఈ వెయిట్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ ఎలా వర్క్ అవుతుంది అని చూపించడానికే ఈ క్లాస్ మొత్తం. సో రియల్ టైమ్ ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్స్లో ఎనీ ఆఫ్ ద ఎన్వైరన్మెంట్స్ మనకు వెయిట్ అనేది 2 2 2 ఉంటుంది. So it will be equally distributed across all the 3 cluster members. But you should know how this is working. So that's why I'm trying to explain. See, ఇక్కడ చూడండి, ఇప్పుడు మనము ఇది 1 పెట్టుకున్నామంటే ఏమవుతుందంటే, మళ్ళీ మీరు అడిగారు కదా, ఓకే దీనికి 1 పెట్టుకున్నారు, దీనికి 1 పెట్టుకున్నప్పుడు ఏమవుతుందంటే మన రియల్ టైం ఫస్ట్ టైం నేను చూపిస్తాను, ఇక్కడ చూపిస్తాను. ఓకే, సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, సో మీరు అప్లికేషన్ యాక్సెస్ చేస్తున్నారు. సో స్నూప్ అనే అప్లికేషన్ని, సో ఆ యూఆర్ఎల్ హిట్ చేశారు. హిట్ చేయగానే సో అప్లికేషన్ అనేది ద రిక్వెస్ట్ అనేది ఏం చేసింది, ప్లగిన్ క్లస్టర్ అండర్ స్కోర్ డెవ్ అండర్ స్కోర్ 1కి రౌట్ చేసింది కదా, దీనికి రౌట్ చేసింది. సో కరెంట్ యొక్క వెయిట్ ఎంత ఉంది దీనికి, ఈ 1 అసైన్ అయింది. సో ఇది సర్వ్ చేశాక ఇది 0 అవుతుంది అన్నా కదా, ఆ వెయిట్ మీకు ఎక్కడ తెలియదు. అది బేస్డ్ అపాన్ ద కోడ్ లాజిక్ లో జరుగుతుంది. సో డెవలపర్ అనేవాడు లాజిక్ రాసుకున్నాడు అలాగా కోడ్లో. సో వాళ్ళు ఆ క్యాలిక్యులేషన్స్ త్రూ ద కోడ్స్ చేస్తారు వాళ్ళు. ఇప్పుడు జావా కోడ్ రాసుకున్నప్పుడు, సో ఈ ఐబిఎం అనేది జావాతో బిల్డ్ అయింది అనుకోండి, వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారు, ఆ కోడ్ లాజిక్ని వాళ్ళు అలా డెవలప్ చేసుకున్నారు. సో వాళ్ళు ఓల్డ్ రిక్వెస్ట్తో ఈ హౌ మెనీ రిక్వెస్ట్ అనేది వెళ్ళింది అనేది కంపేర్ చేసుకుంటారు. సో అట్లా కంపేర్ చేసుకున్న తర్వాత సో ఇదేమైంది, ఫస్ట్ ఇది 1 అయింది, 1 ఉండేగా 0 అయింది కదా. సో నెక్స్ట్ ఏం చేసింది, దీని ప్రకారం అదే వెయిట్ బేస్ ప్రకారం నెక్స్ట్ వెయిట్ ప్రకారం నెక్స్ట్ ఇది 2 ఉంది, ఇది 1 ఉంది. సో ఇది ఏం చేస్తుంది, ఇక్కడికి వచ్చి నెక్స్ట్ వెయిట్ ఏదైతే హైయర్కి ఉందో దానికి రిక్వెస్ట్ పంపిస్తుంది. సో ఒకసారి చూసారంటే నెక్స్ట్ రీఫ్రెష్ చేస్తే ఇట్ విల్ గో టు ద సెకండ్ వన్. సో సెకండ్కి వెళ్ళింది. అగైన్ నౌ దిస్ 2 అనేది కాస్త ఏమైంది, 1కి వచ్చింది ఈ వెయిట్. సో తర్వాత కూడా సో ఇక్కడ 1 ఉంది, ఇక్కడ 1 ఉంది. సో ఇక్కడ 1 ఉంది కాబట్టి నెక్స్ట్ రిక్వెస్ట్ కూడా దీనికే వెళ్తుంది, డెవ్ 2కి. థర్డ్ రిక్వెస్ట్ కూడా డెవ్ 2కి వెళ్ళింది. సో సెకండ్ రిక్వెస్ట్ డెవ్ 2కి వెళ్ళింది. సో అండ్ ద థర్డ్ రిక్వెస్ట్ కూడా డెవ్ 2కి వెళ్ళింది. సో అప్పుడు ఇది 0 అయింది కదా, దిస్ బికెమ్ టు 0 నౌ.
అవును.
సో ఈ వాల్యూస్ నువ్వు ఎక్కడ చూడలేవు. దిస్ విల్ బి దిస్ ఇస్ ద లాజిక్ built by IBM in the back end. ఓకే, రియలిస్టిక్ వాల్యూస్ నువ్వు ఎక్కడ చూడలేవు. ఓకే, సో నెక్స్ట్ ద ఫోర్త్ రిక్వెస్ట్ విల్ గో టు హియర్, విల్ సీ హియర్, రిఫ్రెష్ ఇట్.
Dev 3.
సో నౌ ఇట్ వెంట్ టు dev 3. okay, so it went to dev 3. So this is the mechanism which has been developed by the IBM. That's it. You should know the logic how they have built. We can't see the realistic values or the real-time values based upon the request. We can't see that. There is no future related to that. But even though that is not required to us, whatever they have developed, that is working as per the expectation, then that's fine. Correct na? There is no use to monitor that. That is working as per the values whatever they have said. So but 99.9% of the environments, the weights will be equally distributed across all the JVMs. It will be 2 2 2 2 2. They won't change anything.
Okay, Anna. Thank you, Anna.
Okay, so no worries. Start asking like that. Okay, so if you take time also, no worry. But you should learn the concept. Huh?
ఆ వాల్యూస్ తో మనకు పని లేదు, వాటి గురించి తెలుసుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం లేదంటారు, జస్ట్ లాజిక్ తెలుసుకోవాలి అంటారు.
A logic, yes. You should concentrate on the logic, how it works. Okay, see based upon these values which you have given, okay, that request will be go to that JVMs. If you keep this 4 value, 4 requests will go to here, and one will go to here. That's it. The backend, how increment decrement will happen, that you no need to bother. That code will handle. That's it. Okay, any questions to any others? Okay guys, thanks for joining. We'll see you in tomorrow's class. Thanks.